Competitor, the show that seeks to light that competitive fire within you in order to jumpstart or optimize your career. As always, we're brought to you by my pals over at CG Sports Network. I'm Steve Mellor, and on this episode, I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming in Lex Gillette, a Paralympian for Team USA, who has been the world record holder in the long jump, is the 2019 world champion, the 2016 Olympic silver medalist, and he's obviously preparing for this summer's games as well. What an incredible discussion I've got coming here for you guys. And for anyone who is an athlete currently, whether you're an aspiring athlete, someone who's well on their way within their career, and frankly, all of you competitors listening to this, some fantastic stuff coming up. And for me, if there was a way to describe what is coming up, it would be that of growth and development and understanding the importance of us putting that expectation on ourselves to aspire to grow, to develop as individuals, as competitors, both in whatever it is we're pursuing, whether it's a sport, a career, and of course also in life too. Now, what I will say is that Lex's story of where he is now in life is one that frankly is inspiring, and I don't want to go into too much detail with it. I want to leave this for the discussion itself. But for anyone listening who maybe is just looking for that pick me up in terms of whether they're going through some adversity, whether they're feeling as though things are starting to plateau within their careers, within their sport, I really, really, really encourage you to listen carefully to the next 30, 35 minutes of discussion here with Lex, because this is the reality check in many ways that I'm bringing here to you today. And that's what it is. This is an opportunity to hear from someone who has been through as tough an experience as you can possibly imagine, come out the other side stronger, greater for who they are, and achieving things at such high levels. And this type of story is what we're all about here on Career Competitor. So excited to bring this one to you guys. So without any further delay, let's bring in Team USA Paralympian Lex Gillette to the show, and I hope you all enjoy. Hey guys, before we jump into this particular episode, I encourage you to go to careercompetitor.com, where you can conveniently find all of my episodes provided there. You can also connect with me through the website as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular episode and just hear from you in general. Maybe you or someone you know would be a great candidate to come on the show as well. In the meantime, whatever podcasting platform you're listening to is on, make sure you're subscribed to the show, following us, and of course, leaving us a rating as well. This is paramount, especially if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts. Take the time just to click the 5th star. I would love a 5-star rating if you don't mind. And it really helps us continue to expand the show. So please take the time to do that. And of course, give us a follow on Instagram, career_competitor. I am extremely excited to be welcoming on Lex Gillette to the Career Competitor podcast. First and foremost, Lex, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, and all the better for having this opportunity for the two of us to sit down and talk. We got connected through CG Sports about a month or so ago, and I'm just so delighted to firstly learn from you, to secondly try to pull some great information from you in terms of for our listeners, so we can maybe find ways to compete at higher levels in whatever we are doing. But before we dive into all that, why don't you introduce yourself in terms of what it is you're best known for, let's say?
Yep. So I'm Lex Gillette, and I am a Paralympic track and field athlete, primarily competing in the long jump. Also have competed in the triple jump in 100 meters, 200 meters, and the 4x100 meter relay. I probably still would be competing in a number of those things, especially the triple jump, but over the years, they've removed different events from the Paralympic schedule. So some of my events were cut, but fortunately I still have long jump, which is what I was first introduced to, and it has stuck around. So I've been able to continue working on that and getting better and representing Team USA.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we say represent Team USA, there's been a few achievements along the way. World record holder in the long jump, 2019 world champ, 2016 Olympic silver medalist. So it's not just representing the US, but certainly flying the flag high and doing some incredible stuff. In terms of just some of your greatest achievements through looking over your career? Which one maybe stands out for you?
That's a good question. 2019 was a good competition, World Championships. That was one where there was a long-standing World Championships record. I think it had been there since 2002, so it was a 17-year-old record that I was able to break, which was awesome. I think that, golly, breaking the world record, of course, was an awesome one, given the
Mhm.
fact that I really didn't think that I was going to do well at that particular competition. I had woke up late, my alarm went off, and I overslept. And it was just a whole bunch of stuff going on that morning. But when I got to the competition, everything just seemed to come together.
Mm. Isn't that funny, right? I mean, there's so many instances like that, especially in my world as well, coaching swimming. Athletes who claim they don't feel a certain way or don't necessarily feel ready to go or whatever it might be. It's almost as though you pull some of that, you know, uh, element of pressure away from the day, from the moment, because you are almost comfortable with and almost resigned to the fact that it may not be your best. And that almost liberates you in a certain way. Is that what you maybe noticed when you broke that world record?
I think it was just a matter of our ability to really tap in and to really focus and lock in when it matters the most. And so, yeah, I think to your point, we certainly want to be in these spaces and moments where you have absolutely everything perfectly aligned and you want all the stars and ducks to be in a row. But
Mm.
when you step into when you step onto the runway or in the ring or whatever your arena of choice is, it's like, all right, well, this is the current situation. Let me make the absolute best of it. Let me dig deep and find it from within to produce a good performance, a great performance.
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's important to also just address as with where we're going to go with this conversation, just your disability in relation to you being a Paralympian. Can you just talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm originally from North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, and I was born with sight. So I was
Mm.
able to see up until I was about 8 years old. At that age, I started to experience blurred sight. Things started to look faint. It was literally one of those things where I had come home from school, went through my day to day routine, went through my day to day routine,
Hmm.
and that night, as I was getting ready for bed, I started noticing that things were looking blurred and faint. That prompted my mom to, we took some water and cleaned my eyes out,
Mm.
hoping that maybe it would dislodge something that might have gotten in my eyes from playing outside earlier in the day. Did that, didn't really help. The next thought was to go to sleep, wake up in the morning, maybe everything would be okay. But when I had woke up, nothing had really changed.
Mm.
And we went to the doctor. After an examination, they said that I needed to have an emergency operation because I was suffering from retina detachments. And
Wow.
from there, it was for the next few months, it was me in and out of the hospital, in and out of the operating rooms. I had 10 operations that year
Wow.
alone. And after the last one, doctors basically said that there was nothing else they could do to help my sight. And they said that I would eventually become blind.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredible to hear. Mainly because it's and I'm sure you must tell this story all the time. And for me, listening to this and having the privilege to just to converse with you here this evening, I I find it just kind of incredible that how old were you when this was happening?
I was eight, 8
8 years
years
old.
old.
I mean,
Yeah.
how were people able to sort of explain things to you while you were going through it?
That's a good question. I think that my mom was really, she was just a huge influence in my life. And so I think given a lot of the challenges that she faced growing up and, being a single mom and being in North Carolina, and it's certainly just a different environment versus some of the other areas of the country. I think that she was able to to build a certain type of strength, and from there it was me really latching on to her
Mm.
and her ability to lift me up, and number one, help me through that process of losing my sight, and really helping me to fully heal from that and go through the grieving process. And from there it was, all right, we got to hit the ground running. I want you to be able to go into the world and live on your own independently. I want you to be self-sufficient. I want you to be able to survive on your own, because you're essentially living an experience that not many people in the world are accustomed to. So when you go into the world, you're probably going to deal with a lot of people who just don't understand you, and they don't understand your experiences and your background. So I want to teach you everything that you need to know, expose you to as many resources, programs, tools, technology, whatever I can find to help you see that at the end of the day, you can go out there and achieve absolutely anything. So everything, it can all really be summed up into, she will always say something along the lines of, hey, you decide what you can do
Mm.
and no one else.
That's amazing. I mean, what a lady. Just to hear the way that she was able to make this such almost a realistic thing that you could overcome. It sounds as though she was able to humanize it and make it realistic and say that, hey, Lex, this is the situation and this is how we're going to overcome it. And I love that she was able to sort of look beyond the moment and say, one day you are going to go into the world and you're going to need to fend for yourself. So she was actually not just telling you that she was going to help you figure out how to live with this, but also she was going to get you to a point where you didn't even require her help in order to live. And that's powerful. That's incredible. And in terms of the person that you are, or let's make this about you, just the athlete here for a little bit. As you've gone through your athletic career, how much of that influence have you found you've been able to pull from when it comes to the off seasons and the difficult workouts, and just maybe some of the losses, some of the disappointments as well along the way too?
Yeah. I'm every single time. I mean, so often I find myself thinking back to, all right, well, what would my mom or some of the other people who invested time into my life, what would they expect me to do in these moments? The time that they invested into me, it meant something. It helped to really shape and craft the mentality that I have when I step outside of the door every single day. And it just really elevated my thinking at the end of the day. I don't think that initially it wasn't, okay, well, we want to create this athlete. We want to ensure that he goes to the games and does achieves all of these athletic feats. It was, we just want him to see that he can be independent and doesn't have to be confined to what the world's expectations are.
Mm. I love that. I love that this was you, the athlete, came from the lack of a better term, the building of you, the person. You were built up to be this version of yourself as a human being, and from that you could be the athlete that you went on and became. And I think for any current or maybe recently retired athlete hearing this, I think that's really important to hear, because I know a lot of athletes struggle with that identity balance of saying where does the person end and where does the athlete begin, and vice versa. I think it sounds as though for you were always very clear with how that sort of those versions of yourself existed.
Yeah, I mean, I literally was thrust into it at 8 years old. It was a whole recreation process, right? I went from being able to see the world and running around the neighborhood, playing rec league baseball, and doing things like reading and writing, things that you would just expect to do as a human being. And you don't think about not having the ability to do those things. Watching TV, right? Playing video games, making eye contact with people, things that you literally just don't think about. And so when, figuratively speaking, when the lights turned off, now I was in this space where I'm literally, it's like it's like I'm 0 years old again because I am in a totally new situation where just you haven't experienced it before, and now you're having to literally relearn everything. Your brain is rewiring and trying to learn how to learn how to navigate without being able to see. Now how am I going to learn to
Sure.
read and write? How am I going to interact with people, be social? How am I going to get from the front door of my home onto the school bus, or from the school bus to the school, and school to the cafeteria to the gym? Just you have to literally learn how to do all of those things, and that's where I'm really appreciative of everyone who helped me, because I had teachers and counselors and specialists who focus on different areas, and ultimately that really helped to just build the person who I am today, which uh,
Hmm.
I'm independent. I'm able to do a lot of things on my own, and I compete, have a great time, have a lot of great friends, and even though we're making this sound as though, well, I'm making it sound as though, oh my gosh, this is some magical experience, and so many people just poured into me and got me to
Right.
this point. There were definitely challenges also. So, and
Sure.
that's just a part of the game at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a way to kind of summarize it. It's everyone's
Yeah,
playing their own game, right? Everyone's playing their own version of this game that we
exactly.
call life. And for you, others will listen to this story and think, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I could ever sort
Yeah,
of deal with that." But you were the one going through it, and you were the one that overcame it. And this game that you played, you figured out a way to get from
yeah,
step one to step two, and it was a very different version of step one and step two for me when I was 8 years old. But it's still just such an incredible story, especially for you to now be doing what it is you're doing, and hearing this sort of framework of you, the person behind the athlete. For me, I'm just so appreciative that you would be so forthcoming with this information. But I do want to move on to a little bit of the work that you
yeah.
do beyond your sport now, and you are doing a lot of motivational speaking, and I've watched some of your stuff online, and it was no surprise to me that within the first minute of this discussion, you had my complete and utter attention. You've certainly got an ability when it comes to telling the story of who you are and what you've overcome. But one quote that you use a lot in the work that you do is "There's no need for sight
Right.
when you have a vision." And I just want you to kind of talk to that a little bit, because
Yeah.
I love it first and foremost. I just want you to know that. Like, I absolutely love the quote. And for you personally, where does it come from, and really what is the message behind it?
Yeah, the challenge for me when I had lost my sight was I was now thrust into this world where we essentially live in a visual world. And at that particular time, I'm growing up in the '90s and in the early 2000s, and so of course in 2021 things have advanced a lot, but technology wasn't nearly as good as it is today. So at that particular time, things were just a lot more challenging, if you will. And again, you go from living 8 years of your life being able to see, and then now you're not able to see. It was very difficult. And so there was a gap there, if you will. And as I began to get older and go through different experiences and continue to learn, it finally came to the point where I realized that at the end of the day, everything that has been created and everything that will be created, it always starts with a vision.
Mhm.
You see it within yourself, you see it within others. It doesn't matter if you're blind, it doesn't matter if you're sighted, it doesn't matter if you have this ability, this disability, or whatever it is. You always see things within a vision.
Mhm.
And that's the cool thing about life, right? Like you show somebody a swimming pool, for example, and somebody may look at that and say, "Oh man, this is a way for me to get my exercise on and make sure I stay in shape." And another person may look at that same swimming pool and see a full ride to LSU.
Sure.
And so like people look at these things, so you see differently, and you
Mm.
you tap into this ability to see beyond the horizon, and you see things before they exist. So it got to the point where I was like, well, sight doesn't really determine our success. It's our ability to see a vision
Mm.
and to do everything in our power to bring that vision into fruition, to be relentless, like like relentless, like your hair is on fire, like you're running after, like you're just, going after it like crazy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's just, no need for sight when you have a vision. Latch onto that vision, see something more for yourself, for the people around you, and develop a plan. Connect with the right people who have a similar quote unquote visual acuity as you,
Mm.
and let's band together and let's make some positive change in the world. That's how you change culture, and that's how you vision helps you transcend beyond
Mm.
sight.
Yeah. I hear all of this, and a lot of this stuff I have recently been actually speaking about in just some shorter episodes, and giving some perspective from my side of things. And one thing I'm a true believer in is when it comes to vision is being able to put a definition on that vision. And you kind of, that was really the analogy you gave there, just like, this is either a pool for me that's recreational, this is my ticket to an incredible opportunity in college, as you very well put it. And I think that definition, a lot of the time though, that's where we start to put pressure on ourselves. We create this thing, we put this carrot out in front of us, this vision, and suddenly now we feel this pressure to go get it. Like for someone who's maybe hearing this and saying, well, I love creating visions and I have these frequent ideas of what it is I want to go and pursue, but maybe I'm too scared, maybe I'm too nervous, maybe the pressure is too big. What would be your advice to somebody like that?
My advice would be to, first of all, take a deep breath. You hear it a lot. Take a deep breath, calm down, relax. Because if my thing is, if it makes you feel that way, if you have that sense of fear or uneasiness or uncertainty, then I believe that you're on the right path. I think that you're on the doorstep of something absolutely amazing, because when you don't have those types of feelings and you're just maneuvering through life and things are easy, it's not forcing you to learn. It's not forcing you to think differently. If we're in a car and we're driving down the highway, you have it on cruise control. That's simple. Like you're just driving and along the road.
Yeah.
But when you're in traffic and you're having to switch lanes and you're having to get off the highway onto this exit, and look at the map and figure out, oh, I got to turn right here, I got to turn left here, or I made a mistake, I need to hit a U-turn and get back on the highway. Now you're actively engaged,
Mm.
and you are having to work and figure it out. And so for those moments where they seem very daunting and they seem very overwhelming, number one, you're on the right path,
Mm.
I think. And then from there, it's literally just thinking about, okay, well, I have this vision. What steps can I take to start to bring that into fruition? And if you don't have an idea of what sort of steps to take, that's why we have people who have done it before us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have people who we can connect with. We can ask questions. We can, hey, what were you feeling? What were you going through? How can I get to a similar type of space, or get to this profession, or get to this level that you've gotten to as an athlete or as a professional. And it's really just trying to figure out what those steps are, to have that plan.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it's just initiating. And I think that's where a lot of us have trouble sometimes. You can come up with the plan, you can have the vision, you can see the vision, you can come up with the plan, you can connect with all of these amazing people, but if you don't take any action, then it's basically pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one can do it for you. You have to initiate and execute. Doesn't mean that you have to bring that vision into fruition in 24 hours,
Right.
but it does mean that you have to do something like something that is going to help bring that closer to, um, something that's going to help close that gap between where you are currently to where that destination is. You just have to continue to keep pushing forward and working for it. And that's motivating too, right? Like
Yes,
when
it
you
is.
have something that you're going after and you can actually see the progress, that's motivating. It's like, all right, I can keep going. Like I see this is working. This is going in the direction that I needed to go in. So that was a mouthful,
No, I love it,
but
man. You're singing from my
yeah.
hymn sheet right now, man. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think, for me personally, the metaphor you provided there of getting from where you begin to the destination, and back when you and I grow up in the 90s, you actually needed to plan where you were going before you got in the car and left. You couldn't just pull your
You're
phone.
right.
Yeah, you couldn't just pull your phone up and let the phone do all the work for you. And I think that's a great analogy that I certainly relate to in that regard, as someone who drove around to different swim meets over the years with his parents. We got lost numerous times, but it wasn't as
Right.
if in those moments we just turned around and went back home. We figured out how to
Right.
get to the pool eventually. And I think that is something anyone listening to this has to see and understand, is that, as you said at the beginning, if there is this nervous energy, if there is this feeling that, oh, wow, this could be something that is kind of high pressure, high stakes, but that's exciting. That's something that means you are on the right path, that you are onto something, and it is willing to go down this road, take a right, take a left, take a U-turn at certain points. I think that is just an awesome metaphor and example. And that last point that you made there of just initiating as well, taking that first step. You know what? The worst thing that can happen is maybe you fail. And maybe that's okay. I'm assuming you've had your fair share of failures over the years.
Yeah. I listened to this YouTube video a while back, and I can't remember what the young lady's name was, but she was talking about like each day she would go to dinner. She's at the dinner table with her family, and her dad's question each day was, "What did you fail at today?"
Hmm.
And initially, in the beginning, she was like, I don't, like, why are you asking me this? But after a while, she started to understand that, if you're failing at something, then you're trying, you're pushing forward. And I think that we certainly have to, if anyone has the idea that failing is a bad thing, I think number one, you just kind of have to figure out, well, what exactly are we talking about? I mean, there's certainly certain aspects of life where, if you mess up, it's not a good thing. But as we talk about growth and development, I don't think that failure is necessarily a bad thing. It's an indicator that lets us know that this didn't work. So let me figure out what another option is. And you shouldn't feel bad about failing. I failed a lot. And it doesn't really feel it doesn't feel good, but it certainly helps you to determine a different path, or in the analogy I was using earlier about you being on the highway, just lets me know that, all right, I just need to switch lanes. I just need to make a different turn and figure out how to continue driving down the road.
Yeah, failure is an indicator. I love that. Failure is an indicator. Whether you meant it, whether you realize you were saying it or not, I think that is a really powerful thing, because failing a test, or getting a 75 on a test, or getting a 95 on a test, there is an indication there for the amount of effort you maybe put in, or an indication there for how much you understood the topic that you were covering, or whatever it is. Like it's an indication. It's providing you insight.
Right.
And I love that. Definitely something I'm going to take from this. And the last question here, Lex, I have to ask you is, I always try to cover this with everybody I talk to, is for you the competitor, how do you define a win on any given day? Because I know your wins and losses aren't just about what you're doing on the track or when you're jumping into the pit. Like, how are you defining your wins and your losses each and every day?
It depends on the goal that I set for that day, and if I achieve them or not. I think that each day is an opportunity for us to learn and to not only learn more about ourselves, but learn about the environment and again, to your point, ways that we can get that much better. And a goal could be something as simple as, all right, I'm at training today. I want to jump 2 centimeters farther than what I did last week. Or for example, I'll give you a better one. We were at training today actually, and I was doing some short approach jumps. I had set the bar. I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago. Um, I had set the bar at 6.24 meters from a 4 step run up in my short approach jump,
Mm.
and so my coach today, he said, "All right, well if you hit 6.24 meters, then I'll give you $20." That's like, all right, you'll be able to get a meal. That's a free meal. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to hit that today. I went 6.19 meters, so I was 5 centimeters off.
Right.
And that, you can put that one in the loss column, but at the end of the day, that still lets me know that that lets me know that okay, I need to work on my body positioning. I need to work on using these first 2 steps to really push out and drive and get in the proper positions, work on my postural integrity so that I can jump that distance in the amount of real estate on the track that he's giving me. So I don't know, even though I may not have hit that mark, it keeps me hungry and it always lets me know that there's something to work on. And so for everyone, certainly there's always something to work on. And once you get to that point where you can't find anything, you gotta look a little harder so you can keep getting better and there's always something that we can do to excel and elevate. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. If you can't find anything, look a little bit harder. That's it's
Yeah.
very true. And sometimes you have to want to look, right? Sometimes you have to have that
Yeah.
willingness to look deep and maybe find something out about yourself that you're not comfortable about finding out. It's
Right.
it's that sort of
Yeah.
challenge and situation that we sometimes find ourselves. But love that answer. Love this discussion, Lex. Honestly, man, this was just anything and everything I could have possibly anticipated it being and more. And for everybody that's hungry to follow your pursuit towards the Olympic Games this coming summer, tell everybody where they can learn more about you, how we can follow you. Just give everybody your information.
Yep. So my website is lexgillette.com and I'm everywhere on social, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Everything is at Lex Gillette. And yeah, hit me up, send me a message, comment. I'm pretty responsive on the social platform. So would certainly love to hear from you and would love to follow.
Awesome. Great stuff, man. Well, listen, best of luck with the preparation for the Paralympic Games coming up this summer. I'm excited to be following you, and you've got another fan in me, certainly, and I'm sure you picked up a couple more fans along the way with this episode too. So best of luck with everything, man, and thanks again for the time.
I appreciate it, boss. Thank you.
And my thanks again goes to Lex for joining us on the show today. And as I promised, guys, it was going to be an absolute belter of an episode, and it truly was. In terms of things that I personally took away, I hope there were some things that really resonated with you. But in terms of just me, I cannot help but just admire Lex's desire to continually grow and to continually develop. As I mentioned at the outset, that was the theme for me of this particular interview. And when you look at him explaining failure in terms of it being an indicator, when you hear him describe that feeling of knowing that you're onto something great, when you maybe feel nervous and you maybe feel anxious, when you're taking a big step in initiating something within your career, within your pursuit of success, all of these things come back to that willingness to grow, that willingness to develop, being comfortable with failure, and just being excited for what's to come, even if it seems as though things are going to be very difficult for you in the future. So again, like I said, just amazing things that I personally took from this episode. There's probably one or two more as well, and I know for sure there'll be a few things that you took from this as well. But in the meantime, if you're new to the show, don't make the mistake of not subscribing while you're here. That way, each and every episode that's coming up here in the future, you'll be able to receive right away. Also, please feel free, especially if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, to leave us some sort of review. And in the meantime, guys, best of luck with anything and everything you've got going on within your world and within your career. Keep striving to grow and develop. And I look forward to speaking with you all again very, very soon. Bye for now.